Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is One Piece Arabasta Saga, Little Garden Arc, episode 77, Farewell to the Giant's Island, On to Arabasta. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in the episode. So, at the start of the episode, we pick up where we last left off. Sanji is, well, this isn't an exact order, but basically Sanji finishes his conversation with Mr. Zero, realizing who Mr. Zero is, and he basically says, yep, my mission was successful, Straw Hats, Vivi, all dead. And Mr. Zero lets him know that he's sending him an Arabasta Eternal Pose, and he's to head back to Arabasta. This is when the Unluckies arrive, and Sanji has to defeat the Unluckies because they obviously realize he is not Mr. 3. He manages to defeat both of them and take the Eternal Pose, managing to find the crew. And when he first arrives, he doesn't realize everything's over, so he thinks the Giants may be Mr. 3, but turns out they weren't. Meanwhile, the crew obviously has been celebrating. They passed. Luffy, Usopp, and Karu have been eating the rice crackers that Miss Golden Week had, and everyone's super happy about it. Dory wakes up, and it turns out after 100 years of using the same weapons without maintenance, the blade was dull. It didn't actually kill him. He just ended up blacking out, and he's fine. Brogy's fine. They all have a great time. Sanji arrives, shows the log pose. The crew gets ready to leave the island, and once they head out, Dory and Brogy are kind of sitting there, and they're like, we want to do something for our friends. Oh yeah, I remember another reason why people don't usually make it off Little Garden, and it's not just that it takes a year for the log pose to reset. So they get up and they go to where the mouth of the river is as the ship comes through. They basically tell the crew, keep going straight no matter what happens, keep going straight. Usopp and Luffy, having great faith in these giants, agree to do so, and as they are sailing out, a gigantic fish comes out of the water, and Nami, Vivi, everybody's freaking out, but Luffy and Usopp agree straight ahead, and they keep going straight ahead. Eventually they get swallowed by the giant fish, but it's not a big deal because there are Dory and Brogy, who use a special attack which ends up destroying their already weakened weapons completely, but bursts a giant hole through the fish that allow everybody to go through and the ship to go through and make it to the other side. And that is how the episode ends. So now that we've been reminded what happened in this episode, it's time to rank the episode. First on the mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. So we first have our resolved battle. This is Sanji versus the Unluckies, worth 2 points. Our multi-arc supporting character development, Dory lives. Our multi-arc supporting character growth, Dory and Brogy use blue/red Hakyoku sovereignty attack in order to kill the giant fish and allow the Straw Hats to go straight through. Our multi-arc main character development, Sanji gains an Arabasta Eternal Pose from the Unluckies and Mr. Zero, which means they now have a straight shot to Vivi's country, potentially. And then negative messaging or behavior took 2 points, and that's because even though he was evil, Sanji impersonated a bad guy. He took Mr. 3's identity, it's identity theft, impersonation, whatever you'd like to call it. I mean, it's a good thing he did that, but still, I'm taking 2 points because it is negative behavior. Still leaves us with a 10 out of 10, however. And because this is the last episode of this arc, we now have our definitive arc ranking list. And as always, a reminder that when more than one episode has the same score, they rank in episode order. So in first, we have the Devil's Candle, Tears of Regret and Tears of Anger. Second, Luffy attacked by Magical Colors Trap. Third, Critical Counterattack, Usopp's Quick Wit and Kainaboshi. Fourth, Farewell to the Giant's Island, onto Arabasta, which is this episode. Then in fifth, we have Prehistoric Island, The Shadow Lurking in Little Garden. Sixth, Humongous Battle, The Giants Dory and Brogy. Seventh, Brogy wails in victory, Elbaf's Judgment. And then in eighth place, Luffy's Anger, A Dirty Trick in a Sacred Battle. So my personal ranking for this episode, as always, I do enjoy kind of the more slice of life comedic moments, and I like how everybody was kind of just hanging around, enjoying their after battle glow. Brogy starts by crying, and his tears are so waterfall like that they end up creating rainbows in the sky. Until, of course, Dory wakes up, and then, happy tears, and everybody's excited about that. I like the major attack at the end. We still get plot development with Sanji and his conversation with Mr. Zero, dealing with the Unluckies, getting the Arabasta Eternal Pose, which allows them to move onwards. Still don't quite understand why there aren't any log poses around, because according to what Dory and Brogy have said in the past, a lot of the humans who come to Little Garden never make it off the island because a year on the island is too much for humans. There's also the implication that the fish has also prevented many crews from leaving the islands. So you would think of all those dead crews that there would be at least one or two spare log poses lying around. And yet when they're like, I'd like to do something for you as thanks for, fighting to defend our pride, Luffy's like, can you do anything about the log pose? And they're like, oh, that's the one thing we can't do anything about. And I'm like, but why are there no log poses lying around when you've got piles of skeletons? Clearly, many other crews have come through and failed to go through. Once the log sets to that island, you know, it's set to that island to the next island. So how is there not a spare log pose lying around? I mean, I know the purpose of the plot is we get the eternal pose from Sanji from Mr. Zero. I get that. But at the same time, I don't understand why there is not a spare log pose, just a regular one, lying around that's already set to the next island when you've got all these dead bodies just piled up in corners. Like, surely at least one or two of those dead bodies were a navigator that had a log pose. I mean, I suppose if I'm putting a lot of thought into it, you could say that other crews that did come managed to survive by not having to stay a year because they stole them, and there just happened to not be any left by the time Luffy and his crew got there. But I mean, we're not given that explanation. It's something you can come up with yourself, but at the same time, like, they don't give an explanation, so I feel like there's a little bit of a hole there. Um, but overall, I really enjoyed the episode. I thought, it was a nice coming down from all of the excitement of all the battles that we just finished. Um, Also setting us up to move forward. That's why I gave it a 9 out of 10. I didn't think it was worth a 10 because, ultimately it is rounding up everything and closing everything. So, most of the episode was a rice cracker eating party and, Sanji kind of coming in at the last second being like, what's going on? So 9 out of 10. And that brings the personal rankings definitive list to in first, Luffy attacked by Magical Colors Trap. Second, Farewell to the Giant's Island. On to no, I put that in the wrong spot, I think. Give me a second. All right, so I fixed it. You won't see it because I fixed it, but I had the order just a little bit messed up on the slide. And so I'll start again. In first, we have Luffy attacked by Magic Colors Trap. Second, Critical Counterattack, Usopp's Quick Wit, and Kainaboshi. This episode is third, Farewell to the Giant's Island, onto Arabasta. Fourth, The Devil's Candle, Tears of Regret and Tears of Anger. Fifth, Brogy Wails in Victory, Elbaf's Judgment. Sixth, Humongous Battle, The Giants Dory and Brogy. Seventh, Prehistoric Island, The Shadow Lurking in Little Garden. And eighth, Luffy's Anger, A Dirty Trick in a Sacred Battle. And that now brings us to our final scoring for this arc, and we have our mostly objective ranking. Reverse Mountain was in first place with 90%. Whiskey Peak arc in second place with 82.50%. Little Garden arc came in third with a total of 63 out of 80, which became 78.75%. And then Kobe and Helmeppo arc have 15% and I think are doomed to be at the bottom of this saga. Anyways, on the personal ranking side, Reverse Mountain arc is in first with 90%. Little Garden arc actually came in second with a total score of 60 out of a possible 80, and that was 75%. Whiskey Peak arc was 55%, and then Kobe and Helmeppo arc are in last place so far with 25%. So now we get to update the Arabasta Saga's final score, and that's of course based on the arc percentage that was obtained. So far, our mostly objective ranking, it was 78 and change percent, so that puts it in the 76 to 80 category. So that'll be an additional 7 points. And then in the case of the personal ranking, it's just at 75, and that makes it a 6 out of, well, out of 10, but it's a 6 points that we're going to add. And that then brings us to the series ranking so far. East Blue Saga still in first. Arabasta Saga on our mostly objective ranking has now gone up to 25 out of 70, and on the personal ranking has gone up to 18 out of a possible 70. With that, we've now rewatched and ranked One Piece Arabasta Saga Little Garden Arc, Episode 77, Farewell to the Giant's Island, on to Arabasta. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.